والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters in Islam. This very short lecture is to identify which religion out of these two personifying God or detonifying God. I believe that I'm left with absurdity to believe that the God of Christian is different from God of Muslim, because in the Bible God is with a proof of a personification with a high quality of the issue of comparison. Because in the Bible, God is not the same as what we have in the Quran. I will just give you examples. Because this lecture will continue. Therefore, I will just give you examples. God in the Quran cannot be seen. God cannot be seen. Because God is super being that cannot at all be seen in the Quran. If we see the Surah 100 and Surah 6, verse 103, God qualified himself in the Quran that he cannot be seen. La yadalakahu abasal. No eye can reach him. He reaches all eyes, but no eye can reach him. But what we have in the Bible is different. See the Bible in the book of, if we can see in the book of Exodus chapter 24, beginning from verses 9 down to 10. In the Bible, if I'm allowed to quote directly from the Bible, they see chapter 9. Then went Moses and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 other people, including Moses, making 74. Verse 10, and they saw God of Israel. They went up and saw God. Moses and 74 other people went up and saw God. Even if a child of a kindergarten will never believe that a naked eye can see God. And the Quran is saying here that no eye can see God. That pertaining to the issue was that the God of Christian is different from God of Muslim. But we in Islam, we believe God is but only one. Let's see again. Let's see again in the book, God of Islam cannot at all be defeated. He's almighty, all powerful. Aziz is mighty, all powerful, absolute one that cannot be defeated by any single. But even if all of us will carry weapon, both men and jinn will carry weapon against God, we can never defeat God. Because to which direction will you shoot, since you are not seeing him? But here in the Bible, one man, Jacob, wrestled with God in the book of Genesis chapter 32, beginning from verse 24 down to 30. Jacob fought with, wrestled with men, jinn, including angels, and fought with God, that he got God defeated in the Bible. And God surrendered to Jacob. And God changed his name, because when Jacob said, I will not leave you until you blessed me. I will not leave you until you blessed me. And God said, to that extent, then God blessed Jacob and changed the name Jacob to Israel. So if this God that can be defeated by one man, God can be so defeated by one man. So he's a lazy God. A man can defeat him. But God of Islam is almighty, all powerful, that cannot at all be defeated. Why not leave that God of a lazy God to join the God of Islam, which is strong, which cannot be defeated? Let's see again further that the God of Islam cannot regret. God cannot regret because he's omnipotent, omniscience. He knows all, everything. God is all knowing. God is all powerful. God is all. Therefore, let's see the book of the Bible. We can see a different thing there that God regretted in the book of Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. When God saw the wickedness of man was great on earth, hence the Lord God was sad that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. You see, God did not know what would be the consequence of creating a person. God did not know the consequence of his creation as per biblical injunction. But in Islam, God knows the beginning of everything and the end of everything. God knows everything clearly. But is that different? Are we now left with the authority to believe that God of Christian is different from God of Muslim? When God of Christian doesn't know what will be the consequence of his creation, and God of Islam knows the beginning and the end of every matter, do we say now God of Christian is different from God of Muslim? Let's see further that God of Muslim does not become tired. God of Muslim does not become tired. Because Quran say, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ مَا مَسَّنَا مِن لُغُوبٍ. Indeed, we created heaven and earth with everything beneath them in 6 days, and tiredness has not inflicted us. God does not become tired. But let's see what the God of Christians say in the book of Genesis chapter 31, verse 17. God became tired after creating heaven and earth in 6 days. And on the seventh day, God became tired and rested and refreshed and reinvigorated. Let's see that. We'd like to read directly from the book of Exodus there. The book of Exodus. That God. Let's see directly from the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus, chapter 31, verse 17. Exodus 31, verse 17. Let's see what the Bible has to say there. Exodus 31, verse 17. This is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed and reinvigorated. So if God can be tired, the God of Islam is almighty, all powerful. He can never be tired. But this God of a Christian now, after creating heaven and the earth in 6 days, on the seventh day, God rested, God refreshed, God reinvigorated, God became tired. So if are we not left by the authority to refrain from this God, this tired God? When if you are praying for the God and going coincident that the time when God is tired and you are powerfully praying to Him, praying to God, you are praying to God to help you, and it's coincident with when God is tired, then who will listen to your prayer? Because today God is tired. For instance, let's say that God rested on the seventh day, which seemed to be Sabbath. If God is resting, and why again that all churches are filled on the day that God is resting, then who is listening to them? Do we have another deputy God listening to them? If God is resting, then that day, for instance, when I was a university lecturer, when I'm asked to rest, my resting period, I will not tolerate any other scholastic issue. I want to keep the time for myself to rest in order not to plunge myself into hypertension. Therefore, the time that God is resting is exactly the time that all churches will be filled, and who will be then listening to them? Therefore, even the child, a kindergarten child, a lunatic person will never believe that God had a time of resting. God is all powerful. God is all with work, going around with His work. No time for resting. Let's take it for instance, our breath in and out, inhaling and exhaling, controlled by God. And when God is resting, who is then controlling our breath? Who is then controlling our activities? Who is then receiving our prayer? Who is then? Therefore, even a lunatic person will not believe that God have time to rest. God is not resting. Okay, won't you read that God that is full of resting God, to join the God of Islam that is very attentive, at all time, ready to receive your prayers. Then you see again that the God of Islam, nothing is hidden from Him on earth, let alone in the heaven. Nothing at all is hidden for God of Islam. Because the Quran say that لا يكفى عليه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. That nothing is hidden to God on earth, let alone there in the heaven. God is seeing everything. God is even viewing the child in the mother's womb and hearing the child in the mother's womb. God is seeing everything inside the earth, and as well as all the heavens put together. God is seeing them. But the God of Islam, God of the Christian, is not so. Let's see the book of Genesis chapter 3, verses 4 down to 9. Adam and Eve, when they perceived that they have eaten the forbidden tree, and then when God was coming to them, marching God, I laugh at things laughable, marching the dried leaves of the heaven. God was marching when they perceived God marching, coming. Then they quickly went and hid themselves in between the leaves of the Eden, the Garden of Eden, the leaves of the Garden of Eden. And who put those leaves there? And why those leaves are there? That God cannot see through them. Then when they hid themselves inside the leaves, then God went around asking for them, Adam, where are you? Adam, where are you? Until later, when God got them discovered, when they exclaimed to the God that they were there, then it is then that God said, so God at the initial stage could not see them. God was going about, wandering about the Garden of Eden, looking for the Adam and Eve, two persons, two solid persons, not a needle, not a pin, hidden to God's eyes that God could not see. Why not leave that God that you cannot see and join God of Islam that can see everything? Then God of Islam does not sleep. God doesn't sleep. And God of that is Quran say la tahuthu sunnat wala nawm. Slumber ceasing not, let alone sleeping. But in the Bible, let's see the book of Exodus, chapter 44, verse 23. Then, to the extent that King David used his hand to shake God, awake, and rise, and don't neglect us forever. That is the book of Psalm, chapter 44, 23, verse 23. Shaking God, awake. I don't like somebody so informing God of what is going to happen. Not God informing people of what is going to happen. It is a human being now that is informing, awakening God, put God back to his feet, so that he could, that God could be alerted on the happening, not God alerting people on the happening, but people now, human being now, alerting God on the happening. Can even a lunatic person or a child of kindergarten believe this? Therefore, I think with this so far, let me stop there for today, and I will continue to differentiate between God of Islam and the God of Christianity. God of Christianity stands so disqualified, stands the quality of God of Christianity is so questionable, and authenticity of God Christianity is also so questionable. And God of Islam is with a total deification, not personification as that of Christianity. But Islam deify their God with full deification, not personification. I have to stop there as of today. وكل قولي هذا فأستغفر الله لنا ولكم. السلام عليكم.